Hi, I'm Lisa Singer. I am the Senior Director, Event Programming at MediaPost, and this is Brand Insider BTS, where I get to pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women brand marketers today. And with me is Danielle Sporkin, and she is the SVP Media and Marketing Services North America at Ferrero. Hey, Danielle.
Hi, pleasure to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm so excited to have you here. I love the pink, the pop. We don't see a lot of colors lately, so we're
It's
getting into the spring mode.
exactly. Yesterday was torrential downpour.
Yeah,
Today it seems a little sunnier out. So I was feeling spring.
I totally agree. So, are you New York? Where are you?
New York.
You
Yeah.
are New York
Well,
City.
live in New York. Office is based in New Jersey. So tri state area.
Got it. So, yeah, no, I'm in New York as well. And there was like, I really thought there was this tree right to my left here, and I was like waiting for it to come flying in.
Yeah,
was it was scary. I
it
mean,
was scary, but the storm has passed. It now seems calm
and
and
Danielle
all
wears
is well.
pink, so
And
all
now I'm wearing pink.
perfect. Well, so I know that you're new to Ferrero. So it's, I had seen that, like I've been following you. I follow everyone. I'm a little stalker online. And I noticed that you started your new position in December. I mean, sorry, in January. And so it's only been 4 months, but that is awesome. So I before we get into not the work, but just that new thing, I want to say congratulations on your new position. So that's exciting. So you must be thrilled.
Yes, thank you so much. I started right at the beginning of the year, so it makes it easy to track. 3 months in,
Yeah.
start of the 4th month. At times it feels like I've been here forever. At times it feels like I'm still brand new, but it is super exciting. And what a great way to start the year with a new job.
Yeah, no, I think it's perfect. And I also noticed that you had, obviously lots of congrats and everyone wishing you well. But Chief, which I know you're a part of, the women's organization, and they had congratulated you. They sent you flowers and they said you wrote on your LinkedIn, congratulated you for your bold move. So, and when you think of bold, you think of, and well, just even starting a new position. One, it's exciting, it's exhilarating. You're obviously can't wait to dive in. But I'm sure, especially a company like Ferrero, you've been around a bit, and they do some
Mhm.
good stuff. So it must be a little daunting, or even just there must be some emotions there that are a part of that. So to mix those kind of things, I think that's what bold move is all about, as opposed to, oh, it's just an easy move, you move to another, a great job, which some people might think of it that way, but there's kind of both sides of it. Talk about that. And in terms of taking the job at Ferrero, but in general, like, how do you work those kind of emotions together to maybe even incentivize you more, or you can face it more? Like, what do you do?
I mean, it's a great question. I think you captured the mixed emotions really well. There's so much excitement of starting something new, of getting to learn, getting to grow. I'm coming from a really long agency experience onto
Mhm.
the brand side, which is definitely a pivot for my career. So there's all that excitement and all the things as you go through the interview process that you can't wait to get started. And then there's also some of that hesitation, that uncertainty, because you're going into something new. You don't know what it's going to be like. And, even might I say the imposter syndrome of, am I good enough? Am
Yeah,
I, you know, going to be as successful as I have been in the past in this new role?
right.
So there's definitely those two competing emotions. And, my last two jobs, I was at my last two companies for 5 years and 4 years respectively, which, it is a decent amount of time.
Mhm.
So you forget what it's like to be a new person, to be coming in and not knowing everybody and not knowing how the organization works. So I have to constantly remind myself it's okay to not know. It's okay to remember you're still 3 months in, you're on this journey. And what I will say has been wonderful all throughout my interview process. There was so much talk about the company culture and how it's so collaborative and welcoming and working together. And I've really experienced that. And that has made the transition much easier. People have been so welcoming to me, helping me get onboarded, doing these immersion sessions so I can learn the ropes quickly, and being open to my outside perspective and learning new ways of doing things. So I feel very grateful to be in this position. And I still have to continue to remind myself like it takes time before I'm going to fully feel comfortable in this new role.
Right. Well, and the thing is, I mean, because I'm sure people will look at it and say, someone in your position, it's just like, one, this is an amazing position for you to be in. And two, this is, and most people would be like, I want, especially someone starting out, I want to be you. But also just when you're starting that new career, so that not new career, but that new spot. And as you said, it's all new people. So that's a whole leaving one family for a new family, new dynamics. So there's a lot of adjustments. So how do you set yourself up for I'm not saying success because obviously everyone you're hoping that, but there's no guarantee there. But how for you personally do you set yourself up to make it go more smoothly? Or like do you jump in full force? Do you sort of step back a bit? Like what do you need to do? What would you recommend someone else doing? Whether a starting position in your level or even something, early on, just their new, in a less senior level.
Yeah, I mean, I think whenever you're starting anything new, or for myself at least, like doing the listening tour, taking a beat to learn before you fully dive in and start making suggestions or trying to change things, because you want to understand the context. You want to understand why things are done, who's who, what's going on. You want to be informed before you start to make your way. I do think also though it's important to have those early wins, whatever they can be, a place where you can help out, a place where you can raise your hand, a place where you can make a quick impact, so that people also know while you're learning, while you're listening, you're still there to have action as well. And then for me, I mean, I'm a hyper organized individual. I always have to have my to-do lists, and I try to break it out between what's urgent and what's important, so that I'm really thinking about like, what do I need to get done right now? What's like the most immediate, but
Mhm.
also what are those long-term things that I want to start to put in place, especially for a position like mine, to say, okay, these are the things that as I'm learning and growing, I need to make sure I keep an eye on and I want to get to, because they're important for the future development of our organization.
Yeah, no, and I think what you're saying is because it's a fine line, because I do think I agree. You can't. Maybe the first instinct might be, I'm going to just wow them. I'm going to jump in and do this, and that's not necessarily the way to go. You're going to ruffle a few feathers, and maybe you're not going to do it right because you haven't taken the time to learn. But at the same point, you don't also want to be that person like, oh, she's just a dud. She's doing nothing, or like. So I think it's navigating that is really smart advice.
Exactly. And those quick wins don't have to be revolutionary. It can just be, oh, I see that there's two people with different perspectives and I can bridge that gap. So let me help do that. Or I have some free time because I'm relatively new and this team is really overburdened. So how can I lean in and lend a hand, even if it's not my area of expertise, and I'm showing that I'm a team player. So I think it's about coming in. And when I say quick wins, it doesn't have to be monumental changes. It's just
Mhm.
showing that you're there to learn, but you're also there to do, and you're there to support and build those quick relationships, because that really is the foundation of anything that you're going to do. The relationships with your colleagues, your cross-functional teams, and how you work together.
Yeah, and I think what it all comes down to is offering value. Like you're showing that the value you are bringing to the organization, and that will increase as time goes on. And but I think that's they need to see that right off. So I like what you mentioned right off the top that you had gone from mostly in the agency side, and now here you are on the brand side. So talk about that in the sense that even like when you were first starting out, I like to go back to like when Danielle's graduating college and planning her future, like what were you thinking then? And did you see this? Was this part of the vision? And if not, then what led to this? What was the path like?
Yeah, I love that question. And I do a lot of mentorship, I do coaching, and sometimes I'll be asked to speak with folks who are still in college or just graduating college. And I love to talk about my story, but I always start my story with saying there is no right path. Like I can share with you my path, but don't feel like this is the blueprint of what you need to do, because everyone's different. I think there's many different ways to wind up where you want to go. So for
Right.
me, don't I definitely don't think that I saw this as the path. I don't know that I even knew what the path looked like. I went to liberal arts college. I majored in political science and minored in economics. And I
Wow.
thought that I was going to either work in nonprofit or politics or be a lawyer. Uh, did some internships, started to find myself a bit and realized that that wasn't right for me. And I had to make a pivot. And honestly, at that time, it was like the heyday of Devil Wears Prada and Ugly Betty. And when I was young, I wanted to be a fashion designer. So I said, you know what? I'm going to be a magazine publisher. That's what I decided. I thought that was going to be my path instead. So as I graduated, I started looking for jobs, and I don't even know really how I landed it, but I landed in an interview at a media agency. I didn't really know what a media agency was. But I got the job, and that really catapulted my career. And I think from there, like going from a assistant digital media planner into the role that I'm in now, some of it is openness to new roles,
Mhm.
openness to new opportunities. I have a lot of curiosity, and I think that's helped me a lot. So I started in digital, but I was curious about how it all worked together. So I moved into comm strategy. And then I was curious about, I had worked in CPG, but I wanted to understand other categories. So I moved into the technology sector. I raised my hand. I took on different jobs, and that agility, that not straight ladder but jungle gym, as they say,
Mhm.
enabled me to have this really robust career that eventually landed me into the position that I'm in today.
So do you think the fact that you did, like, 'cause you could look at it two ways, like old school, like maybe older generations might be like, well, you're flip-flopping a lot. Can't you pick something? Like you're not gonna, like, people are gonna look at you and think you keep you trying to determine what your future is going to be. Others see it as what I'm sure Ferrero saw it as. This is a person who's open to learning and taking on new challenges and continues moving on and excels in it as she moves forward. So, I mean, obviously, I made that sound a lot nicer than the other one. But what I'm just saying, in terms of, is there a fine line, or do you think it's changed now that that is something that people need to be open to, and it's no longer that longevity, that loyalty, what people might say, all of those things that used to be a career plus, maybe not so much anymore, at least in the marketing industry.
I mean, it's definitely a balance, right? There has to be balance between loyalty and longevity and new opportunity. I will say, even though I've done a lot of different things, I haven't worked at a lot of different companies. I had the
Mhm.
opportunity to take on new experiences within a company I was in. So it
Right.
wasn't that every year I was hopping to some other company, but new opportunities came around, whether it was a new piece of business that was won, or an opening on a
When you're
team
at the
that they needed
agency.
when I was at the agency side. But even at Ferrero, we talk a lot about, people stay for a really long time, but that doesn't mean they're in the same job the whole time. There's the ability to move across different teams, to move across different places around the world. Like, it's finding that way to continue to grow and still being able to do that in a way that's loyal to a company, and that
Mhm.
that has a path. I want to call the difference between, like, just flip-flopping around, as you said, because you're not sure where you want to go, which, by the way, when you're early in your career, I think is also all right. I always tell
Yep.
people, when they take their first job, that doesn't need to be the career for the rest of their lives. It's okay to try a few things when you're really young and see what works. But as you mature within your career, it's finding those opportunities to grow, but doing so in a way that, like, you understand the direction you're moving in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I didn't mean to imply that you were a flip flopper. But no, but I do, but I just, even when there's so many, when I'm looking at everyone's LinkedIn and I see, people so senior level, so successful, yet they've been at a number of organizations. They've moved from place to place, and that's a norm in the industry. That's sort of where I do think, it's more similar to my background in journalism, going from different shows to shows because that's just the nature of the business. But I feel like there's, people sometimes want to, like I spoke with someone the other day and she had just been with, at one time she had been with the same company for like 20 years and then she since moved on. So I just wonder when someone's just starting out, like say someone's coming out and they're like, I want to be you. And not just focusing on this longevity and moving around. I think we talked about that, but just what kind of, how should they go into it? What kind of that first job, if maybe they're thinking I do want to, maybe it is Ferrero and this is a brand, this is a company I'd love to stay with for a long time. How do you go into that and still be able to charter your course and to be, to get to those next levels and to have those new opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about that goal setting. It's about having a sense of what you might want to do, understanding where you want to learn. I think there's a lot of benefit in the informational interview, right? You find someone in the organization who maybe works in a different area than you do and sit down with them and learn a bit more about what they do and how they got to where they want to go. So at the end of the day, for me, regardless of level, starting out or very senior in your career, curiosity, open mindedness, those are things that are going to take you very far.
Yep, and willing to step up, as you talked about earlier. So I love in your LinkedIn post, you showed Peggy Olson, a photo of her from Mad Men, for those who don't know. And she has a box. So I'm assuming that was her walkout scene when she left her position because she had been working for Don Draper for a long time, and then went on to a different agency. So that was her moving forward. So I love one that you post that, but two, why? Like, what was it about her and how what she represented at that point? And actually, and how is she still representative of, women today in the industry, in the ad industry?
Yeah. So the image of her holding the box with the sunglasses, walking down the hallway, it was from either the penultimate or finale of Mad Men. And the funny thing is, I used it on my LinkedIn post when I left my last position, but people who've known me for a long time know that that image has actually been my desktop background since the Mad Men finale because I love that image so much that I actually have had it as my desktop background for years because I just felt like it was the type of thing that when I was opening my computer in the morning and being motivated for the day, just seeing that gave me that sense of I can do anything. So I used it in the LinkedIn post, but I actually have used it as a
Sure.
piece of inspiration, if you will, for a really long time. And I think it's great, her as one character of like this strong woman, obviously working in advertising. There's lots of other models of strong business leaders, strong women, but it sit very squarely in that ad agency, mentality. It is a great one. And, from the Mad Men days to where we are now, I think we've made a lot of progress from some problematic behavior then to, really making strides. But we also know there's more work to be done. There's more opportunity to see women and diversity in leadership, and there's still opportunity more to think about how leadership is represented, how teams are represented, and how that can be reflective of the consumers that we are seeking to engage with. So yeah, it's really just an image that makes me happy and gives me a little bit of motivation each day.
Yeah, and I mean, yes, there's definitely been some changes. So anyone who's watched Mad Men is very well. Some might like that time, not the women and men thing, but just the free for all fun. But yes, I think for women, their role, she was a perfect example. She was actually more of a woman of today in terms of the way she went about things, but she obviously had to struggle more with that during that time because it was so much a good old boys network in terms of advertising during the 60s. But I'm curious, have there been, and I'm not saying like what Peggy dealt with, but any challenges for you within your, on a personal side, not a campaign, but on a personal side in your career that maybe seemed, un, like something that you didn't know how to deal with, or it really just like kind of was that gut kick. And then you just had to kind of reassess. Has there been a time like that for you?
Well, I mean, we all went through COVID time, and I think that was challenging for many people on many different levels, right? Adjusting to working remotely, whatever was going on in the world, in families,
Mhm.
in personal health. So I think that in general, and navigating through that and continuing to also have a productive career was a challenge for everyone. I also, in September of 2021, became a mom. So that was another, obviously, like wonderful, joyous, amazing thing, but challenge as well to go from someone who was really focused on their career to trying to figure out how do you balance career and family and childcare and being a working mom and still being very focused and career driven and wanting to excel and also wanting to make sure that I'm giving the right time and attention to my family. So I think, that's something like, again, it's evergreen, and there are positive moments and there are challenging moments, and it continues to evolve as well as, my
Now
son
you
gets
have what, a
older.
3-year-old toddler, I
Yeah,
guess?
2.5. Yeah, we're in the
Yeah.
toddler
Boy,
phase, so that's a
girl,
whole
boy?
new
Boy or girl?
environment. Oh, he's a boy.
It's a boy. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, that obviously, and that's a very good gut kid, and no pun intended with the gut.
Yeah.
Whatever, but no, but it is, it's, I mean, as much as it's a wonderful occasion for you and your family, but I can see at that point, especially when you've been more, it's all about you and your career, or, not that your family came into play, but I'm just saying in general, when you all of a sudden have this thing that you need to care about, need to care for, and divide your time with, it must be hard for you. And I've talked with many women who have dealt with those kind of issues, not issues, I don't like to say it that way, but challenges. Talk about that in terms of how you were able to make it work, because you stayed moving on the ladder. There was no, take a time out or whatever. It's like you're still moving forward, but you're also doing it in a way where obviously you're keeping that sort of, I don't know, balance is not the right word, but it's maintaining. What was the key for you to make it work?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few things. The first is, I think anyone who's a working parent is always thinking about what does that mean for my childcare options, right? In my family, we made the decision that my husband would be a full-time dad, which would enable me to focus on my career. So that's one decision that, look, was right for our family and might not be right for every family, but that's something that we chose that enabled me to stay on that career path, which I wanted to stay on and also supports my family. I think the other thing you said about balance is a really good one. And balance is one of those words. It's like, oh, what does it mean? What does it mean to be balanced? Can anyone achieve balance? And the way I try to think about it is it would be great for every day to be balanced and have the exact right time committed to work and family, but that's just not realistic. There are some days where, you know, some days I really need to be focused on work. Maybe I'm traveling or maybe I'm in the office late and I miss bedtime and that happens. And then there are other days. Today there was an event at my son's school, so I had to block time in the morning because I wanted to go to that and I wanted to be present. So I think trying to achieve daily balance or even weekly balance is probably unrealistic. But if I can look at multiple weeks or a month or a quarter or a year and say, for the most part, I'm getting it right, then I feel like I'm moving in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, and I think that you said it perfectly there for the most part. Like not expecting perfection. Like I think women, that's one of the draw. Women tend to want to be perfect. They want to be the perfect mom. They want to be the perfect at the office. They want to be perfect friend, the perfect wife, whatever it may be. And I think it's about doing your best. And sometimes you're going to maybe fall a little in one side, but then you'll make up for it another time. And I guess being kinder to each other, like or yourself, not even to each other, to yourself.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And, I've played sports in the past and I've heard this idea of you should talk to yourself the way that you would to a teammate or to a colleague, right? I think we are our worst critics and we say things to ourselves, and the pressure and the guilt that we put on ourselves. We would never do that to someone else. You would never say to someone else, oh, well, you missed bedtime one night. You must be a terrible mother. Like that's just, that idea would never even cross the path, but
Right.
we think that ourselves. So
Yeah.
how do we get out of that mindset and talk to ourselves the way we would talk to others?
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point. What's I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but point. Like it's like you would talking, validating it, or what is that word? That's going to really bug me. I'm going to think about it after we are done. But it's like a scenario. It's like an example or whatever you want it, like a comparison. But I think that talking about how you're cheering on your friends. And like you said, you would never, if your friend was coming to you feeling horrible, saying that, you would give them support. You would give them whatever, advice, whatever. You would try to pump them up. Yet we don't do that to ourselves. So I think that's such a valid point. Well, I have to ask you, since I always try to incorporate a little of your company, and of course, Nutella is, Ferrero's huge brand out of the many that you guys have. And their tagline, or Nutella's tagline, is spread the happy. So I want to know, how do you spread like what's happy to you? What's your happy place, and how do you spread that happy? Like, is there any particular? And I'm talking little things, just whatever, something that you do on a daily, or not
Yeah.
weekly, monthly, whatever, but just that you can think of.
Yeah, and I mean, I love that tagline. I love that you're using that example. And what is so great about really all of our products across the portfolio is the way that they do bring happiness
Mhm.
and joy and togetherness, whether it's bringing parents, caregivers, and children together, or when entertaining. There really is this idea of those special moments, big or small, bringing everyone together, or even a little bit of self-indulgence. And when I think about translating that to my happy, I think it is the same framework, right? I'm happy when I'm with others, whether it's spending time with my family or with my friends, or maybe taking a moment and trying to do something that is for myself, taking a little bit of me time. I will admit that in the conversation we just had about being a working parent, it can be really hard to find that time that is a little bit for myself, but trying to prioritize me wherever I can every once in a while, I think also brings a bit of happiness.
Well, so what would be that? What is when you finally say, okay, I got to prioritize myself? What's that little bit of happiness? Like, what is it that you go to? What do you want to do?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, it could be as simple as sitting down with my husband at the end of the day and watching a TV show that we've been looking forward to, or, you know, going to get my nails done, as like that little spa experience, even if it's only 30 minutes, or, honestly, with my family, like the weather's getting nicer in spring. Like there's a park by our house, taking my son for a walk outside and going to the park and just enjoying the outdoors. I think it is those little everyday moments,
Mhm.
and really just trying to savor them in what can be a really demanding, hectic, busy, so many things going on, meetings and play dates and birthday parties, and trying to experience those simple joys.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And plus, well, in terms of Nutella, I mean, or just any of it, chocolate always is a good addition to.
Yes, absolutely.
So, but is there something that most people, or that a lot of people, get wrong about you when they first meet you?
Get wrong about me. I mean, there's probably things that they get wrong and I don't even know, but
Maybe they
I
think you're like, maybe they assume that you're like this, but then after a bit of knowing you, they realize you're more like that.
yeah, I mean, the one thing that's coming to my mind, and it probably is tying to what we were talking about with the new job and everything like that, and something that I think others have gotten wrong about me, but I also get wrong about myself, is about when you're in a leadership position, having to have all the answers. When I think back to the first director role that I had and I was leading an agency practice, I had this mindset of I had to answer everything. I had to be able to solve every problem and know every answer. And I think it's a bit of a self fulfilling prophecy, too, right? If you're thinking about that of yourself, then your team starts to think that as well. And it took me quite a bit of time and coaching to understand that not having the answers and being vulnerable and being able to say some of the things that we've been saying about the self doubt or the imposter syndrome. So I think that's a thing that others and myself get wrong about myself, which is like, you don't have to have it all together. Like, we're not perfect. You don't need to have all the answers. That like being infallible and being sometimes insecure, being vulnerable is actually a strength.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. But I think, do you think, who cares what I think, but women um, want to sort of put up that facade a little. And I don't even know if it's intentional. I know there was one time I ran into this person I hadn't seen forever, and was in New York City and just chatted a little bit. And at the time, things weren't great on my end. But I was very honest. Like, I wasn't trying to, like, didn't lie about anything. I didn't try to. And when we were leaving, she was just like, "I'm so glad everything's going so well for you." And I thought about it, I'm like, "What?" Was she, you know what I mean? So, like, I feel like I have this facade, and I think a
Mhm.
lot of women do, where it's not about even pumping yourself up or lying or anything like that, but I think we want to, like, we're in control. I think, and
Yes.
if people think you're in control, then everything's good. So I just, do you find that that's maybe what you sometimes deal with, or you just think that in general women tend to have that kind of inclination?
Oh, I think absolutely. Like again, women in general, especially for working moms, like you have to have it all together. You have to be, knowing what's going on with the school schedule and the snack and the this and that, but also managing your work calendar and making all your meetings and making all your deadlines. And between all of it, like you don't want to show the cracks. So I think that definitely is a facade that we try to put forward. And some of it I think is intentional because for me at least, I can only speak to my own lived experience. If I'm putting on that front that I have things together, even if I'm feeling a little chaotic, it helps me the same way that they say if you're feeling down, but if you
Yeah,
smile, then it can brighten your mood. So sometimes coming in and saying, you know what, I can handle this, I do have it all together, is going to help manifest it to be true. But yeah, I think in the same time, like, and some of this is probably also perpetuated with just social media and culture and this idea of like Instagram versus reality and things feeling like they have to be so perfect. But the reality of life is things aren't perfect. It's messy and stuff goes wrong. And it's actually about how you take on those challenges and learn from them and grow from them and move forward that really make us more resilient.
yeah. No, I agree. And I think what you said beforehand about being vulnerable, I think ultimately when people see that, it makes a better connection. Like, the facade is great, and maybe you get respect, or maybe people are trusting you, especially in a job position or whatever. But there's not that real connection until they see what's underneath that vulnerability. I think people need to see all, because everyone's feeling those things. So it's, if you're so perfect, if they think you're so perfect, then that makes you feel more imperfect, I think.
Exactly. And if I tie it back to what we talked about at the top of starting a new job and coming in and like what time do you feel more vulnerable than when you're walking in and you absolutely don't know stuff because you're new and being able to say, "Hey, I don't know that," or "I'm still figuring that out," or "Can you help me?" Asking for help is so powerful. So it's all connected together of being able to, even as myself coming in a very senior position and say, "You know what? I still need to learn how we operate. And I have a lot of experience that I'm bringing to the table, but there's also stuff that I need to learn and help me get there."
Yeah, no, I think that's such great advice for anyone, whatever level, to show that side and to be open to, that you're not perfect and you're just going to be doing everything. Okay, I just want one quick question before we say goodbye. And any skill, trait, inconsequential thing about you that you want to share? Maybe you have this secret skill of being able to whistle through your nose. I don't know. Like, but something that's, the general population does not know about.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say it's inconsequential. I'd say it's pretty consequential. I was a roller derby player with Gotham Roller Derby for 9 years. So, if you're not familiar, Gotham Roller Derby is New York's only roller derby league. It's run by the members. It's also a 501c3 nonprofit organization.
Oh,
And it supports all types of programming. There's intramural games, there's travel teams that travel around the country and the world to compete. They do junior derby for kids, they do basic training. And I still am involved in the league, but was a skater for many years, both on a home team, on a travel team, as well as being a part of their advisory board. I led media and marketing. I was vice president and president of the league because you can't tell I like to take on lots of
Yeah.
responsibilities. So yeah, it's not everyone knows it about me. I'm not shy about it, but it is a pretty unique and fun fact because I don't, think there's a ton of advertising executives that are also roller derby
Yeah,
players.
I did not, that one, that is awesome. And two, I would never ever have pulled that out of the hat. So you have to have had, did you have a name? Did you have a
I
roller derby name?
I did, and my roller derby name was Spork Chop.
Spork Chop. I love it. Now, was it one word or hyphenated?
With a space in between. First name
Spork
Spork, last name Chop.
Chop. Okay. That is awesome. I can't ask, there's nothing else we can top that. So I think, thank you. Thank you, Spork Chop. This is
No
awesome.
problem. This was such a pleasure. I really enjoyed talking about all these topics.
I enjoyed it too. And thank you for watching. And if you have anyone that, another Spork Chop out there that might want to, that you want to hear more about, please let me know. I'll do my best to get her. So thank you. And thanks again, Danielle.
Thanks.